everybody. Welcome to the VO Dojo Ask the Sensei. I'm Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei here in Burbank, California. And this is our free Q&A that we do once a month on the first Wednesday of the month. And we are so excited to have our guest senseis be most of the Dojo Sensei team. So we're super excited to have Sensei Campion here from Minneapolis, Sensei Stefregio, based in Prescott, Arizona, and Sensei Shannon, who's also coincidentally based in Prescott, Arizona. Sensei Terry Nicole is traveling from Atlanta to LA to be part of the That's Voiceover conference that we are one of the sponsors for this weekend, so she won't be joining us, but here in spirit. And of course, our amazing dojo team member keeps everything going, marketing director Kelsey V is here facilitating. So thank you so much for joining us. This is a time at the dojo that we're here to answer any questions that you have about anything. So, first we'll have the senseis introduce themselves a little bit. We'd love to hear where you're calling from in the chatty chat. And then if you want to put whatever questions you have for today into the chat, we'll call you into the room and get your voice in the room. And yeah, and then we'll go until 11 o'clock. If we have a little overage, we might do a little extended dance mix after that if there's a little overflow questions, but that's kind of how it works. So, senseis, why don't you introduce yourselves? Who would like to begin?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm Shannon, and I've been a professional voice actor for 20 years. I've done every genre of voiceover you can imagine, except for audiobooks, just because that's not my thing specifically. But I started a lot, about 25 years ago. And I've done a lot of commercials, TV commercials, tons of video games, e-learning, phone systems, radio and TV commercials, and promos. And also I should throw in that I also, if anyone has any questions about vocal health, I'm your woman, since I lost my voice for 4 years and wasn't able to work for a chunk of that. So I'm just now coming back into the industry after severe vocal strain. So called muscle tension dysphonia. So I am also a good resource for anyone who is dealing with any kind of vocal issues. I hope that you are not, but I also would like to encourage you all to make sure that doesn't happen by informing yourself with preventative care as well. And that's my PSA. Thank you for listening. Yeah. Thanks, Evan.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Stephanie Reggio. I've been working in voiceover for probably about 20, 25 years, similar to Shannon. I'm born and raised and trained in Los Angeles, but I'm currently living in Northern Arizona right now. I've had the good fortune to work in every genre and primarily commercials, but a little bit of everything, which I love to do, and I'm fortunate to do that. Um, and I don't know what else to say. My specialty is a broad range of a little bit of everything. And also I'm kind of a tech junkie, so I'm good about different ideas of makeshift studios. I've had all kinds of studios, including standalone ones that I've had built, and I'm always happy to give people some MacGyver tips of creating studio as you start to broaden your horizons into the professional realm of this. So
You're also a singer-songwriter. You also have a music background, right?
yes. I'm also a singer and a songwriter, and I've had songs placed in different films, and I was a radio DJ for a while, so I'm I'm those of you who have an announcer sound, I'm your gal to teach you how to break out of that because once I got out of radio and went back into voiceover, I had to retrain. So that's something that I'm very proud of.
Broadcast,
How to sound like a normal person when you don't actually sound like a normal person. That's
broadcast
so
antidote.
yes.
Awesome.
Thanks,
And
guys.
Sensei Cat.
Sensei Cat
Hi.
phoning in from the Arctic tundra of Minneapolis, my hometown. Moved back here after 15 years in Los Angeles, primarily Hollywood. I have been working as a professional actress since I was 16, so like 36 years or 32, 36 years, I think. 28 of those years in SAG-AFTRA, have served on the board of directors for SAG-AFTRA, vice president of women in film and television. I am in pre-production on my animated series for PBS called Life Ups. Maybe I'll drop a link in the chat if people are interested to know more about that. I specialize in encouraging people to live their dream and get out in the world and have relationships with people in the industry and create your dream projects, whatever that may be. And I work primarily in commercials and I guess narration, some video games. My biggest brags right now are I just booked a national network commercial campaign for Eucerin, which is like a lotion commercial thing. And I've already done 3 spots, which earned me enough to buy a new Airstream. My boyfriend and I, we were saving up to buy an Airstream. And I was like, I just need like 10 grand more, and made that in 2 hours. So that was nice. And yeah, I really like, I specialize in the business of VO. I love helping people who are already working pros, whether they're making a full-time living at it or they're like starting to make money at it. I love helping people figure out how to expand their voiceover portfolio. I'm a European citizen and I work a ton with Europe and the Middle East, and they pay really well and they're not under SAG-AFTRA jurisdiction. So I especially love helping union members who feel like they've kind of hit a wall and they're limited by what they can do, and I can super expand their horizons. So that's, oh, and I was a professional cellist and singer for a long time during that window of being a professional actor, and I do on camera as well.
Yeah. And Sensei Terry is based in Atlanta and she has many superpowers as well. One of her main superpowers is e-learning. She's an amazing educator and has been working and thriving in the e-learning realm. So that's what she's going to be presenting at That's VO. And before we start taking your questions, I just wanted to let you know, like, to have all of us together here is really how we work at the dojo all the time. This team of 5 senseis, when you work with us in, whether it's in our development division, of the Launchpad and Workout and Mystery to Mastery program, or in our Working Pro program, the Nth Degree, all of us are working to support all of you. We work together and really hold the space for each of you coming through the journey. We're all sort of like, I don't know, fairy godmothers or something that just sort of circle around and see like what's going on with them. So it's kind of cool to have us all together at the same time and answering your questions. So let's get started.
Being new to audiobooks, is it worthwhile given the holiday season to get all those contacts and emails out of introduction, or wait till after the holidays?
Well, for me personally, I think the holidays are a great time to connect with people you already know and, thank and be grateful.
Sure.
I know I've been one of the voices of Subaru for 14 years, and one of my annual traditions is, sending a case of wine a couple times a year. So those things it's not that you should always send that, but the people that you have relationships with, I think it's a good time to reach out. For me personally, if you think like at the dojo, this is one of the only things that we do in December because nobody has any brains. So, so if you think about what's on your mind of taking care of people, it may or may not be the best time to reach out with hi, I'm new. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts? Everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think if you're brand new and you're trying to, introducing yourself, I don't think the holidays is a good time for that. I think that because everything does slow down a bit, I think it's better off to wait for, the new year. And also be mindful within audiobooks. I don't know who you're reaching out to, if it's publishers or if it's I don't know if you already have some books that you've already narrated. I definitely recommend people who are new to audiobooks. Obviously the training is important because it's its own genre. And to get onto Audible and audition for things through there. Because if you go in and introduce yourself to people as a newbie and you already have a couple of titles under your belt, that's definitely gonna pack more of a punch as well. But again,
I just
yeah, I'd answer,
sure.
definitely I'd say wait for the new year.
Okay. I just finished a course, the second round of Ronnie Butler's Dojo
Oh,
audiobooks,
Yeah,
which was
yeah.
tremendous, really tremendous.
yeah,
Lots of information there. So I
great.
think coupling that with waiting through the holidays is to use this time to have everything ready to go and drafting emails and
Yeah.
just ready to push send. I made my profile on Ahab Talon already, but I will go through Audible as well.
Yeah, and
Thank
Yeah.
you.
get some good samples. And also another big deal is to make sure you are ready to go as far as your own recording, editing, knowing where to, sometimes you have to sort of hire an outside person to help with some of the mastering, because I know Audible has very specific mastering requirements that I know my software, Adobe Audition, doesn't actually do. So a lot of times I hire somebody on the outside of that, but always assume that you will get the job. So audition for stuff and be ready to get it right if you get the job.
Yeah.
So that's sort of outside of what you asked, but that's just another audiobook
Sure.
suggestion.
I also put
Yeah.
in the chat that I also auditioning regularly through voiceover. I try not to use my NPR voice, but I've been a long time of
Oh yeah.
KLW
Yeah.
public radio for over 20 years.
I'm a
Um,
former public radio person myself. So yeah,
I think there's a lot.
it's
It's
my first tip to you is don't wear your headphones while you record.
really.
Yep.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting
You'll
tip.
stop listening to your own dulcet tones.
I know
Yeah.
I don't project anymore. It's funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thanks.
I hope
Uh,
that helped.
Kat,
Thanks.
Kat and Shannon, anything to weigh in about uh contacting people during the holidays?
Well, I think this is a great segue into, I love that multiple people have already dropped questions about like contacts and what we used to call networking and I call relationshiping.
Like,
Because I think this industry, a lot of industries, maybe life in general is a relationship based situation. So, yeah, I love Tish's suggestion to like, well, consider how you feel. Like we're all kind of stressed and fret and like, I don't even really celebrate the holidays that much. And just to be clear, like I've already had multiple compliments on my Christmas sweater. This is from my Jewish granny. This is not a Christmas sweater. This is a winter. This is a snowy sweater. Maybe it's a holiday sweater. But yeah, so kind of feel out how you would feel about like you're kind of wrapping up the year and finishing up old things. I think a lot of us kind of see December that way. And then January is like, okay, fresh start, new budgets are coming in, books are opening up, who are we going to add? So I think this is a really good time to foster existing relationships instead of trying to think of new ones. And in general, like mostly think about fostering existing connections you already have because new ones are always going to be new for the time being, where it's like you probably have relationships with people that are 10, 20, 30, 40 years old, depending how old we are in here. And so I really encourage people to reach out to their personal networks, just directly or through LinkedIn, because we are often the only voiceover professional that people know. So if you're the one person they know and they have some local business or some major business, my sister is a global international microfinance consultant who owns her own firm. And so she's hired me for stuff because she's like, well, I needed voiceover and you're awesome at it. I don't really want to go through the process of hiring someone other than my sister. So yeah, you just reach out to people and just build those relationships. And I feel like networking has a vision of like getting something from someone, or is it worth networking with this person? What will I get out of it? Where relationshiping is like, I just love humans. I'm a human. Let's connect. Maybe we'll work on something today. Maybe you'll introduce me to someone we'll work on today, but just sort of detach from release the attachment that you're like expecting something from someone, because it reeks. We all can smell that, like, oh, this person wants something from me. So focus on being of service, you know?
That tip about mining your existing contacts is a good one, because I've been a long time with Stars Agency in San Francisco. It's been very, very dry lately, but they may have contacts that I can talk to and say, hey, who do you know in audiobooks? That kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, especially those of us over 50, like we have a whole lifetime and a whole career behind us that we can dip into, you know?
Yeah. And I think also
You
sometimes
are not over 50. Come on.
sometimes if you haven't, had a lot of contact with your agent, it's a good time. It's a good time to go like, hey, it's how's it going? Any other insights, Shannon?
I was gonna say this. I mean, I would have said the same along the same lines of holidays. Yes, it slows down a bit, but then people are kind of doing their end of year stuff, and they're not gonna. And then there's a whole break in between. And so if you reach out now, and then everyone has holidays, you're not going to be top of mind. So I kind of feel, again, I'm sure everyone's different, but that would be, existing clients, great. Happy holidays, reaching out, just connecting and hoping everything's well. And otherwise I think at the agencies, they're kind of just gearing up for the holidays and they've got a lot on their minds. So I think
And,
I'm sure
and
there are exceptions, but that just is my general
yeah,
feeling.
and
Yeah.
gifting
I was gonna,
wise, it's helpful to, like, if you can be more in tune with who you're sharing things with, like if your agent is sober, don't send them whiskey. If your
yeah,
agent is losing weight, don't send them chocolate. Probably, like, careful, be mindful of giving a gift that is like, oh God, another goddamn cookie.
yeah.
Um, but yeah. Okay. Good questions, David. It's great to see you, and it's great to have you here. I know you've been working on the You Should Do audiobook, so it's great to see you here.
My question was, if you're new to the industry, how do you go about networking?
Yeah,
If you don't have anyone existing.
well, I think there's a couple things. I think first of all, Kat's articulation of relationshiping is great. Um, the thing that was also just talked about, like, who do you know? Like, people, right? And people know people. So who do you know that knows something about it? Or who would you like to know? Like, just being here is a great thing, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
now we know you. And I think you've been showing up pretty regular. Like, oh, it's Evan. Hey, Evan. That's how we met Kelsey. She came on one of these things. Now she's part of the team. Um, yeah, so I think that, like anything, I think you could also figure out where are you located, Evan?
I'm in Rocky Hill, New Jersey,
Rocky Hill, New Jersey. Is
right
that
next to Princeton.
Princeton? Okay. So you're in that sort of mid-Atlantic area.
Yeah.
So you could join. I think you're probably close enough to New York that you'd
I'm
probably be
2 hours away from there.
Yeah, you'd probably be able to get involved with Voice Actors of New York, and they usually have a really happening Christmas party.
Mm.
Um, so, like, become part of those, like, online communities, and then go see them in real life. And that's a great way to meet people who are doing the things, and then we also and then there's the how do we become part of the voiceover community, and then how do we build relationships with our clients, right?
Hmm.
Two separate things. And as you're on your journey to become to start your voiceover business, become a voiceover pro, then the more people you know, then when you have questions, you can ask them, and things things like that, right? What other thoughts, guys? Yeah, Shannon.
Uh, yeah, I think relationshiping was such a big part of how I started. In fact, I got my first agent and it was a big agent because in LA they had a networking group and it would meet every month and it was a little cocktail hour thing. But I ended up meeting a manager there and she's like, give me your demo. And then she was like, I'll rep you. And then she gave it to an agent and I literally had an agent within a week. Now, that won't always happen, but I was going to say, honestly, I mean, I'm not trying to come from basically taking classes and workshops. And that's really the big thing, because that is how you'll meet people in the industry. But not only that, take classes and workshops from people that actually do casting is really important. And it's not that there's a guarantee that you'll work, but there is a guarantee that they now know you. And if you keep working with them and they're invested in you and they're like, oh, this person's really good, then you've got that. So I don't want it to, when I say I don't want to, what I meant is I don't want to sound like pay to play. Like I don't want to be it saying, oh, you
I
have to
know what you're
play.
trying to say.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to say like, oh,
You're not
give us
trying to be a sellout.
exactly. Like I'm not trying to sell you on that. I'm just saying, even, at this point, when I take workshops and classes, I make sure that it's somebody that I know can cast a lot of the time. And then the other thing is I was going to ask where you live. I'm from Connecticut, actually. So I know your area. And yes, look up meetup.com is a really good resource for I've used it when I was new to town because I'm from LA as well. And then meetup.com, you can kind of look up, are there voiceover practice groups or are there voiceover meetups or and then again, New York City, I was thinking the same thing, is if you can find a meetup there, just like a little networking thing. But definitely, and acting classes in general, I mean, they're fun, they help you out, not even just voiceover classes, but acting classes, because that's actually a really fundamental skill. That's what we're doing here. So taking as many acting classes as you can is really important. And again, it just grows from there. So it's not so much like you're going to call up a producer and be like, hey, can we have coffee? But and in fact, I'd love to hear Steph and Kat, your thoughts on this. But everyone has that friend that's like, I've got a cousin whose brother wants to get into voiceover, and can you go meet up with them? And as much as we'd like to do that all the time, it can be a little, it's just it's just time is valuable. And if I don't know the person, I've done it before, but I've kind of now said, well, they can have a consultation because it's just, it's just a lot. So I would say more when you're taking acting classes and that sort of thing.
So yeah, get out there. Kat and Steph, any thoughts?
Well, I think that something that's really important, and I always say this, is make sure your chops are good to go before you start working on your relationshiping. Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people are like, oh, I need to make the connections. I need to make the connections. But in the meantime, they still haven't trained enough. They're not quite at that level. Go and listen to demos of at different agencies online and listen to what your competition is, and if you think, gosh, I'm not quite there yet, don't fuss about the relationshiping yet. It's just like the same thing I was saying, always assume you will book the job. And then if you book the job and then you can't back it up with the studio and the chops and all that stuff, there's an opportunity lost. So everybody, I mean, and I did this in the beginning as well. Everybody's a little bit in a rush to like, oh, I want to get my demo made. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to meet people. I want to network. I want a relationship. No, get your training, lock it in, get comfortable, get confident, become aware of the industry, watch commercials, listen to commercials, understand what you are going into, because you're going to be competing with people like us. And it's super important. And I'm not, saying this to be negative, obviously, but because we all started from scratch as well. And, the dojo is great because, we've got, and I'm not pitching it, but I am saying that we've got fight clubs where we bring in decision makers and people who do casting and people who do work that angle. And so there's an opportunity there's a built-in relationshiping, and it also gives you an opportunity to really get that feeling of what it's like, and people who are sometimes don't mince words, which is important. So again, be mindful of not putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah,
Yes.
You
that's really
absolutely have to train. Absolutely. I still take workshops. I've been training since the beginning, and I still am always honing my craft. So don't be in a rush because somebody told you, you sound great. Work it, focus, focus, focus. Because not an art form. It's not brain surgery, but there are a lot of details to it that professionals know already, right?
Mhm.
So don't waste those opportunities by not being ready. You
Yeah,
know what I
I was
mean?
going to say, don't put the cart before the horse. So Stephanie took the words right out of my mouth. I learned a really cool idea living in LA, launch at 80%. So once you feel 80% trained, like you could get out and start book, there's still room for improvement. We all, maybe the senseis are at 92%, but there's always still room for improvement. But worrying about the contacts of people, the agents, the demos, the website, you can be kind of thinking about that stuff and developing that stuff, but training, performance is everything. You will spin your wheels if you can't compete with people like the senseis. You can hop on those pay to plays, and it can be a full-time unpaid job of just like auditioning all day every day. So don't waste your time and money skipping over training. Just like any career, any industry, you go to school first, or you take workshops first, or you get a mentor first. So make sure you feel like you're pretty well there with your performance. And a lot of people study performance and then discover they're not actually very good actors. And this is not a career. This isn't a career for anyone. For everyone. There's no career for everyone. So you have to be open to the possibility that once you train, you might kind of go, I'm just not really great at this. And it's so competitive. You want to make sure you're really talented, and business savvy before you start spending time and money on demos and reaching out to agents and paying for meeting casting directors. You don't want to do that too soon, or they will remember you if you fall on your face.
Yeah.
And I think,
that's really important. Yeah.
yeah, I think there's something else about understanding that you are building relationships as you are developing your skills and you are developing your business. The people you meet along the way become your people, become your community. That's sort of what the dojo is about too. Like let's do this together, and then you have people. So trust that you are doing it, and we have to do it more conscientiously than ever. When we all started, it was a whole different thing, and everyone drove to their agents, and we saw each other every day and talked and talked and talked. And now we're really alone unless we're conscientiously reaching out and building that community and creating those opportunities to be working with other people and talking with other people on both sides of the glass. So it's a real conscientious it's a conscientious effort, and then trust that it will unfold organically, right? If you're playing baseball, you're going to meet people who are playing baseball and like baseball, and then you'll find out about baseball, and then you'll go to other games and watch baseball. And if you're doing the things with the people who are doing the things, then it's a good chance. Is that helpful, Evan?
Yeah.
And I,
Yeah.
I also wanted to say that Sensei Cat and I met in a workshop 400 million years ago. And
You might be the first person I ever met in the industry, Stephanie, or one of
yes, in
Sure.
Los Angeles. Yeah. And
years ago.
Shannon and I met at a mutual agent that we had. Tish and I met, we both went to Northwestern, so we've known each other for even more than 4 million years. Yeah, so those are some examples of how we met, and it became this whole thing, as time goes on. And here we are all these years later involved in the dojo. So it's kind of it's pretty neat. I mean, we're doing Zoom now, but it's still a way to meet people. And I know a lot of our dojo students, um, you know, kind of go through the process together, and it's really neat because then they start to bond and they start to share their accomplishments, and that is a form of relationshiping. It's because it also builds your confidence and keeps your chops going.
And I'll just add that that's exactly right. I thought the same thing, is that when I was doing those networking things, I had been studying for a few years. I had been going to a actual voiceover school in Orange County, California, and had studied for years and had a demo, and yet I took my first demo, which was crap, to Abrams Agency, and they were like, you got to come back with something better. Like I got in there because I knew someone. I knew someone that was like, I have a friend at Abrams, so you can meet with the top of head. And I did, but I had this stupid little demo that was so crappy. And he was like, yeah, come back when you've done some work. It was kind of like he was nice to me, but I wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wasted that opportunity.
I am a dual national with the UK and the US, and I've never had this happen before, but a client sent me a tax form. I'd never seen it before, saying that, because I was also a British citizen, that I needed to file taxes for a potential job over there, even though I'm US based. And I don't know how, like, I know if I was living in the UK, I would have something like a foreign earned income exclusion, but I don't know how that works in the UK because even though I'm a citizen, I've never lived there. So I don't know if I'm supposed to file taxes just for this one job there, or am I filing it in both places? I tried reaching out to my tax people. They have no idea. Googling it with the Google AI is a nightmare. So I wasn't sure, especially with Sensei Catherine living in Europe and working in Europe, if you had any insight to that.
I do not offer tax advice because I'm not a tax preparer. So no, I did put a link in the chat for the IRS, specifically on dual status individuals such as ourselves. Yeah, I have a tax preparer. Shame on your tax preparers for not at least being able to send you somewhere to answer your questions. I pay someone to do all that stuff for me. So yeah, I mean, in summary, I live in the US. I'm a US citizen. I report everything I earn on US taxes, and right now I'm not paying any international taxes. But when I live internationally, then there's the whole thing of like technically you're supposed to pay to the US and but not be double taxed if there's an agreement, which Europe has with us. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna reach out to the British consulate too because this just happened yesterday. So it's
Oh.
just kind of shocked me. I've never dealt with that. I've had a UK client before, but I'm like I never
Yeah,
knew
I
that was
have
a thing.
clients all over the world. I don't pay
Yeah.
taxes to their government, and I don't pay taxes to Ireland for jobs I do internationally. I pay where I live. So just to give you an idea of what might be a legal, feasible way.
The question was for Shannon. I appreciate you mentioning about the voice health. I deal with the achalasia, which is a disease of the esophagus, not necessarily closing properly. And I was wondering if you had a tipper or any tips that you can share regarding voice health that can help with that. Sometimes I run into challenges in doing jobs when I'm speaking, and I realize I do need to look at creating a regime for my voice health and would love anything that you could share. Thank you.
Thank you for asking, because I think this is a really important component um, of the work that we're doing here. Obviously, I don't know about I had a similar thing to you where my vocal cords, I was having vocal cord dysfunction, so my vocal cords wouldn't close. So there's breathiness and strain, and then it led to a secondary issue where I was straining, and then I developed chronic tension in my throat. And so, of course, I know you and your doctor will work through whatever is necessary to manage your symptoms, but generally, because in your case and in my case, it wasn't vocal cords that were the problem. Those actually are working fine. It's the structure, it's the muscles around it, it's in your case your esophagus. But I will definitely just help generally if you're doing this, if and you're doing this full time, I would say make an appointment with a vocal coach and not an ENT specifically, a laryngologist. I went to an ENT and he didn't really know anything about vocal stuff, and he told me your vocal cords are fine and sent me on my way because he didn't know enough about like that my muscles were pulling my vocal cords apart and things like that. So I would say yes, some people do recommend an ENT. I would say make sure it's like laryngologist where they can scope your vocal cords, scope the muscles, see what's happening for you, just as a preliminary and see where you're at, unless you're having zero problems at all. And also, I would say hire a vocal coach at least 1 to 3 times just to teach you some basics about keeping things relaxed, keep your breath, how to breathe, how to relax. For me, and there's also techniques like the Alexander technique, which was very helpful for me. A lot of actors study it. It's really about relaxing and posture and how to use your voice in a way that frees up this area and your voice. So, and then there are all kinds of things. Mine was caused by reflux from small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and people will have reflux for a million different reasons. So, essentially, I wish I could tell you one thing, but I would say just make sure you have the right professional, the right doctor, the right laryngologist, and that kind of thing, because anything else you can learn. There straw phonation and all kinds of techniques and all the exercises and the cool down and the warm up, and those things are really great. Just as if you are a singer, you're going to want to learn warm ups and cool downs. You can find them on YouTube as well. And I'm sorry you're struggling with that, because I know how frustrating it is when you want your voice to do something and something else is happening and interfering. And then you're like, I was talking like this, and it was so incredibly frustrating. My last thing I'll say about that, and then I'll give it to the others who also have knowledge in this area, is that if you're feeling strain, stop. If you're sick, stop. Don't even talk. If you have laryngitis, the talking through it will cause muscle tension dysphonia, which took me 4 years to unravel. So don't push yourself past where you think, because I did that. People wanted to pay me, and I was like, I can't do it, but I'm going to make myself do it. And then it just got worse and worse. So this is one of those, it can be so disappointing when you're sick and someone's like, here's a $10,000 job. And you're like, I can't do it. And so you have to be able, and this is something I learned, I had to be able to surrender and say, I can't. My body's not going to do it. Most of the time, my clients would wait for me. And if they don't, you just have to know, I have to let it go. I can't, be in that. You don't want to push yourself to the point of of making it worse. And that's the unfortunate part of voiceover or any kind of thing where you're reliant, or being an athlete, is you're reliant on your body working. And when it doesn't, it is so disappointing. But if you're a football player and you hurt your knee and you run out there on the field anyway, you're out for the whole season. So you got to miss a game to be out, rather than be out for the season. And so those are kind of like my general tips. But if you have any questions, please always feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you. I will return.
Yeah.
Can you put Faith's our vocal sensei, Faith Rumor, is an excellent vocal coach. She also has a speech pathology background. She might be a good person that could be someone who blends the two things to talk to and or point in the right directions.
Thank you. Yeah, because I definitely don't have the medical support. Like when you're talking about working with doctors, that's not a real thing for me because they don't know much about this condition. It's rare and there's no known medical cure. And I've seen ENTs, I've seen um uh the other one that was just speech pathologist, and it hasn't gone well. So I'm gonna definitely look for a laryngologist and see if that's something that I might need to switch insurance, that it can align with something like that. And then reach out to Faith as well. So thank you.
Where are you?
I'm in LA.
Oh, if you can get in with Dr. Gupta, Reena Gupta. If your insurance covers her at Cedar, she's my lifesaver, and she really understood me. And and I'll also just say, yes, let's say you're having esophagus spasms, it's like you might be tempted to sort of like work around that, and then that could cause a secondary issue. So someone like her, if you can get in with her, she's my favorite of all the people that I saw. I had people that I did not like, and people that gave me poor advice, and people that didn't understand what I had, because it's not detectable. It's a very common thing that happens to singers and teachers and voice users, but a lot of people don't have a lot of knowledge about it. So I had to teach myself, which I'm sure you understand. the
Um,
internet research.
I wanted to just chime in really quickly. A dear friend of mine had achalasia. And I don't know if you've already researched this, but I know that he got a laparoscopic procedure done at a hospital up in San Francisco. There was a doctor at the time who specialized in this laparoscopic procedure specifically for achalasia. So I don't know if that's something you've already researched, but it
I've
was a
had 3 procedures, but if it's okay, I'll reach out to you to get specification on what that was, because
yeah, I mean this was many years ago. But it was I won't get into the specifics of it, but it was specifically achalasia. It's such an unusual thing.
Mhm.
And also I wanted to also chime in that another part of vocal health is you have to alter the way you live your life in some respects when you're working in voiceover. And it's not just what you do when you're doing the actual work, but it's how you speak during the day. It's, not going to parties that are so loud that you're trying to speak over the noise. It's like everything you do all the time. I mean, I had one of our students who was like, "Oh, I was loud last night and I was yelling and it was just now my voice is gone." It's like, well, if you
Mhm.
want this to be a career, you got to start to be aware of your, you know, changing some of those patterns, and that's it's not just when you're performing, it's all the hours that you're speaking,
Mhm.
and you're out or you're doing whatever. I never go when places are really loud. I'm like, I'm not going to talk to anybody here because I can't talk over it. I'm not going to do it. So anyway, those are just some ideas there.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, anything else to add, Kat?
Just because the semi-occluded vocal tract exercises were mentioned, I just feel like I'm amazed how many people, even at high levels in our industry, are like, what is this? And so I don't know if maybe I could drop a link in the chat or something kind of explaining it more if people are interested, because I actually have, this, yeah. So this is a little semi-occluded vocal tract exercise straw from Laxvox. I think they're in Turkey or Hungary or something. But yeah, because I spent $40 on a piece of rubber, I use it every day, and I really encourage people, even not in voiceover, everybody should warm up their voice for a minute or two every day before they start speaking. So it's just like a little straw that goes into water, and it sort of creates pressure against your larynx and vocal cords, and relaxes them, lax your vox.
This is a good question about animation. Thank you, Kevin.
Mhm.
So I did a character recently for an animated series called The Wolf Pack, and I played the mother wolf. And I think what's just something important to note here is that there's sort of an idea that in animation you have to do a silly voice for a character. Like, oh, she's a wolf, so she should be growling or she should be sounding a little, like something. And I think what's really important to remember is obviously there are characters that are still cartoony, like they were back in the day, but the description for that character was just a sort of Modern Family mom. Like she's cool, but her kids are mortally embarrassed of her. And so I just thought, well, that's me. And so literally, even though I'm a nanny, and I can be really silly and goofy, and I'm pretty hip and cool, but honestly, I can be a dork. And so I just kind of, when I auditioned, I didn't do a voice. I just did me. I just did, hey, I'm the mom, and that's who I am. And then I'm also a wolf because it's an animated series and all the characters are animals. And then I also did some voices of the frogs. We did some extra ADR work where we also they were like, oh, also can you just do a little thing for this like one line for a frog? So it's really fun. And I'll just say that I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. That yes, animation, especially these days, tends to be very grounded in reality. So the copy that you're reading might be amusing or funny, but you don't have to do anything but be believe what you're saying, inhabiting the world. And so it's a it's a fun thing to do, is to put yourself in another character, and yet you're still finding yourself in that character.
For a good fairy is the first what is this called? Action figure. So that's kind of exciting. So she's an action figure. Um, so that was it was great. It was really cool to be part of that supersonic cast. And um I got to work actually this kind of goes back to who you know. Evan and everybody was asking about relationshiping. Is actually the director of Ever After High was someone that Steph and I went to Northwestern with, Audu Podden. So when I was a freshman, he was a senior. I like was doing like backstage stuff as he came up of a trap door. But then years later, we connected and we got to work with each other on many animated series. Um, and a little bit like Shannon, Fair Good Fairy is like I have a side that's really kind of light and sweet, and Farah, like her thing was granting everybody's wishes, but not sure that that anything would come of it for her. So just kind of tapping into that lighter side of like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't know that anything's gonna happen for me, but I love giving everything to everyone else. So it was a little bit like a variation of a part of me. And then you know, with big blue hair and cool, cool kind of in the know teen tude.
Yeah, I don't remember,
I think the
honestly. I'd have to
takeaway,
like,
I think the takeaway is that when you're wildly successful, as we are, you've literally booked so many jobs. You could name 1,000 different things I've done, and most of them I'll be like, God, that was 5, 10 years ago,
I
or
just, yeah,
yeah,
I remember doing it, but I couldn't tell you any specifics. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Which is also a good practice of why when you record something or audition for something, just keep a little file of it. Because
And then bring it back.
what was that Mother Cabrini and the like
Yeah, I hang on to them for a while, and then, once we do the job, off it goes into the abyss. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I
well
can't give you any specifics on that.
Yeah, one of my funnest brags is voicing Siri for the Ellen DeGeneres show. So when she's talking to her phone to Siri, then that's been me over the years. So that's a fun one.
Yes, so lovely senseis. What is your favorite thing about being a sensei? And what is a piece of advice that has just like stuck with you this whole like every time you're going through something, you're like, oh yeah, that one thing.
wow. Good questions. Yeah, Kat.
Um, my favorite thing about being a sensei is that it has given a whole new layer of meaning to my career. I was even kind of at the point where I was like, what am I doing? There's all these problems in the world. Is what I'm doing helping anyone being a voice talent? But teaching, man, I see every day how we are changing people's lives. We are helping people make a living. We're helping people make their dreams come true. So I feel like a pixie dust has been sprinkled on me at the dojo. And then the first thing that came to me as far as advice goes, and I have so many things that I'm like, man, I wish I had a me 20 years ago to give me this advice. But when you get to the point, maybe some people on this call are already at a point where clients reach out and go, what do you charge for this thing? What's your rate for this? And I even had myself burned on something earlier this year on a huge video game I was on where they asked my rate and I gave them a rate and I found out later I sort of offended them with my slightly higher than normal rate. Do not give a rate unless you have to. When a client comes to you and says, what's your rate? Say, what's your budget? And then, try to get them to give you a number. And this is because your number, unless it's exactly what they had in mind for the budget, you're either overshooting, in which case you might scare them away, or maybe they'll be like, yeah, I guess we could squeeze more money, or you risk leaving money on the table. Maybe you say, I want 3,000 for that commercial, and they're like, whoa, we literally had $10,000 budget for that. Great, pocket the extra 7,000. So that's my number one tip is ask them to give you their budget rather than you giving them your quote.
Excellent.
Good one, Kat. Really good one.
I
How
want
about
to
you?
say for me, as far as being being a sensei, something that it's really done for me is that it's because we still our career and our this work is ebb and flow, ebb and flow, ebb and flow. And so it's really important to not have to not forget where you started and where you've come from and how far you've come. And so being a sensei and teaching people and realizing where they are in their journey has reminded me of when I first learned certain things and who I learned them from, and reminds me I don't forget where I came from. And it's nice to realize, and I tell students this all the time, it's like it gets to the point where things become muscle memory. And that's been wonderful to realize in my own work. I'm like, oh man, this is really in my DNA now. And assuring people that you put the time in, you put the work in, it will happen for newbies at all the different levels. It'll start to just like get into your DNA and soak in. And my I think the advice that I would give myself, or the advice that helped, is um is to have confidence, because I also had a break early on, and I was so anxious and had such worries about, oh, do I deserve this, am I good enough, and that I just kind of pissed it away because I had so much anxiety and doubt, self-doubt. I didn't believe in myself, and this was after I'd trained. So the training actually helps, because then again, it gets in your DNA. And that when opportunities do come, you're like, hey, someone's got to get this job. It might as well be me. I've worked hard for this, right? So there's no doubt. So, but that's again, that's time. So those are my hot takes.
Oh, cool, cool. And Shannon, how about you? You're our newest sensei. You've
Yeah, thank
jumped
you.
right in.
I legitimately love doing this more than I even knew that I would. And part of it is I love to be people's cheerleader, and I love to encourage people and to help them find their best self just through encouraging them, and also, yes, finding your confidence. I but I definitely want to say, sort of on a also on a more self-centered note, that I learned so much from you all, because I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and even just there's always more to learn, and there are things that I may not have thought of. And so I actually learn from the students as much as I hope they learn from me. But I think that it's collaborative, which is really important. It's not me telling you what to do. It's us working as a team, working together, coming up with ideas together. And for some of the classes, you get to chime in with your notes once you're more comfortable in the realm. And so I'm like, oh, wow, that's a great note. I never thought of that. It actually helps me too in continuing to learn, because I may not have thought of something that you've thought of. And then in terms of like the advice, I don't know that I necessarily heard this, but I learned it along the way, which is acting is just being. And in fact, my on-camera teacher, Doug Warhit in LA, always taught that. And I started with him years and years and years ago, where people often, I think, make the mistake of saying, oh, Matthew McConaughey is the same in every role. He's the same guy in every role. That's because he's bringing himself to the role. And that's what it should be, because you want to find truth and authenticity. So just because there's a microphone there, you don't want to think of this as performing, even though that's what we call it. It's a performance. No, it's showing up authentically. It's showing up you. We're not like a producer is not hiring your voice. They're hiring you and your essence. You have something no one else has. So lean into that and don't shy away or think, Part of why I lost my voice was trying to sound like someone else, like sound like what I thought I should sound like. So knowing that your voice is enough, it is your true voice. Relax. Like just be. It's not acting, it's being. It's you. And what Doug said to me was, it's you in a different circumstance. So, okay, maybe I'm not a bank robber, but let's say I got hired to play one. Okay, then I have to kind of say, well, if I were a bank robber, where would that be coming from? And how would I behave in that circumstance as me? I might have conflicted feelings about it. I might, and that's what makes the performance more interesting. So don't pretend, just show up as you. And and sharing for your share, as Tish always says, we're sharing information. We're not reading, we're not performing, we're not instructing, we're not telling, we're sharing information. And just as you would share with your best friend, over a coffee, something you're really excited about, we're literally just offering information that we really believe in. So groundedness and authenticity, it doesn't mean do nothing, but don't overthink it. I mean, you will in the beginning. You're going to overthink it because there's so much information. And then take the information and then let it go.
Yeah, yeah. And for me, being a sensei, the whole dojo has become a second calling. Like I remember the first time I had a session in voiceover, I was like, that, boom, this is what I'm doing. And the first time I had an opportunity to share what I knew about voiceover, I was like, oh, okay, got it. And it's been evolving over the last, 12 plus years. But it's an opportunity, like the thing that is so powerful, and I love being a sensei, is holding the space for people to get aligned with the power and possibility of their voice. Everything that we've been saying here, that when you really do this, voiceover isn't just a way, it's a great way to make a living, but it also becomes a way of life. And to hold this space with people over an extended period of time, a gestation period where we can be holding the space for people to be on that journey and then watch what happens, what becomes, where people start and where people get to and where people go is, oh my gosh, so amazing. It's so absolutely fulfilling. Um, and then I think one one of the seminal moments of my career um was having trained and done everything and talked to everybody and felt ready to do my demo. And Cindy Akers at Voice Tracks West said, you're 98% ready, and I'm not going to make your demo because you need to be 110% ready. You need to be 130% ready. And then she gave me a referral because she had a relationship. She gave me a referral to something, and I went back to it for 6 months, and then boom, hit the ground running. So I think it could have been a really different story, a really different timeline if someone hadn't at that particular point said, so close. Um, so those are things that I'd say. Kelsey, why don't we finish up with us asking you a question? What do you love about being on the Dojo team, and what do you know now? And then we'll wrap up.
What I love about being on the dojo team is, or what do I get from it? Which one? What did you ask?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, so I guess what I love about being on the dojo team is that we're all really in sync and we have like the same. It's like we all work together cohesively as a team, and I think that everyone on the team is so kind-hearted and kind-spirited and just wants to like contribute to our students, and we really care about our students and like what's going on in their lives and like how we want to come across. Everything we put out is super intentional. And I really like that. I really like that we are very thoughtful, and I love the people, I love the students we attract because the students we attract are so wonderful and so inspiring. Um, yeah, so that's what I think.
So whenever we come together, we gather all the gems of, so what's one thing that made you go, oh, or oh, or oh. But we'd love to have you put that in the chat, see what you're taking with you. I don't know, take away. What are you taking away? What are you taking with you? What did you gather from today?
Be yourself. Your true self is enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mine was quick because I've struggled with this. It takes time. And I think it was Sensei Steph that said, overdoing it over and over again, at some point it's going to click and it's just going to feel so natural. And that was really nice to hear. So
Yeah.
thanks for that and everything that was said. This was really helpful and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Good, good, good. It's lovely to have you here.
We appreciate you.
Enjoy the journey and just be yourself.
Yeah.
So I've had the privilege and the wonderful opportunity to meet Kelsey at via One Voice Dallas, and she is the real deal. Just so loving and caring and full of energy. So I think the dojo is actually a great place to be, and I'm looking forward to doing some work with joining some and participating in some classes. So and that's thanks to Kelsey. It's just meeting her in person and showing up for the free sessions has just really meant a lot to me. But when I met her, it was like, she's real, and she had her hair different. So like it was just I met Maria as well in One Voice Now. So it's just good to meet people in person and touch them and see the people that you see. And I'm thankful for all the senseis. It's just a wonderful opportunity to get to spend time with you each month. So
awesome. So glad you're here. Thank you for sharing that. And it's like, yay, we're doing it. Yay. Our plan for good is working. Haha. Um, let's see, we got Kelsey and then Vivia, and then if there's anyone else, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, this is one I need tattooed to my forehead. Don't let anxiety run your career, like Sensei Steph said.
Yeah, yep. That's why so much of the work we do at the dojo is about internal work, inner critic work. Like, how many freaking decades did I just freak myself out for no reason? Yeah. So yeah. Good, good. And Vivia.
Yeah, I would say it was a lot of good takeaways today, but my vocal health is important, and I get to factor that into my daily routines and consider it in my medical plan too, especially as I'm see how to change my access to medical care, really looking at, okay, these are some options that I want to make sure that I have access to and can make work financially for myself. And also I'm gonna add another one is make sure I ask about what their budget is first. That was very helpful. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, Senseis. Thank you for joining us, and it's really nice to be together with everybody. We're together twice a month all the time, but it's great to be here with y'all. Thanks so much, and thanks for a great year, and to all the goodness ahead. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Kels, for keeping everything going. And also feel free to share the replay with, if there's valuable information here, feel free to share this with people, let people know that this is something that we're doing, and if you got something out of it.